Well, hey there, idiots. Welcome back to Observe. In today's video, I'm going to be analyzing the nonverbal communication of Jeffree Star in his most recent video that he just released, in which he announces that he's moving, selling his house, addressing mental health, so on and so forth. A whole number of things. But before we dive into that actual content itself, I want to go ahead and turn things over to my intellectual co-host and researcher over in the research lab so we could talk about today's sponsor. Hello. My name is Logan, but the thing is, I'm the intellectual Logan who does the research. I'm the researcher Logan. You can tell that I'm an intellectual because I have some glasses, and this tablet is a research tablet. You can tell it's a research tablet because of the way that it is. And I'm going to talk about today's sponsor, which is CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is a factual-based media and entertainment company based in America that offers video programming that includes documentaries, TV shows, short-form videos, etc. that can be streamed to any device at any time, anywhere in the world. This even includes your smart TV. So in a way, you could look at it as being smart television for your smart television. You see, when you are an intellectual and a researcher such as myself, elevated humor becomes a thing as well. If you like the content here on Observe, I'm sure that you'll appreciate the content library over on CuriosityStream. It has an array of non-fiction TV shows on topics like history, nature, science, food, technology, travel, and more. Yes, there's more on top of that. One of the many documentaries that I watched on there that I greatly appreciated was called The Science of Deception. In the video, the scientists explore alternate means to detecting deception outside of the polygraph, which, as we all know, the polygraph has been around for ages. Everybody has heard of it, and this is an alternate version of that, hopefully to be a little bit more accurate. What they use is a system similar to a movie or video motion capture suit. This struck me as very intriguing, as I believe that technological integration is the future of deception detection. It's very exciting to see more attention being brought to the realm of deception detection. If this sounds interesting to you, you can use the code OBSERVE to sign up for just $15 for an entire year's subscription. But perhaps you're concerned that you might run out of content. Well, you can rest assured that you will have more than enough media to work through with 35 collections of curated programs handpicked by the experts over there on CuriosityStream, and thousands more videos on top of that, including some award-winning exclusives and originals. Again, you can get the entire year access to CuriosityStream's entire library of educational content for only $15 if you follow the link in the description below and use the code OBSERVE at checkout. So big thanks again to CuriosityStream, and without further ado, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Logan in the studio that's not a part of the research. It's a different studio, not related to research at all. Wow, I feel truly informed by the intellectual side out there in the research lab with the research and stuff. So thank you so much for that, and thank you again to our sponsor, CuriosityStream. Let's go ahead and dive into the content of this video. So Jeffree Star wanted to go ahead and address some of everything, his existence online, and he released this video here recently, and I have received a lot of requests to go ahead and analyze this. So I will be going through the video, analyzing some of the more important parts, talking about the nonverbal communication during that time to see if we could see any portions of possible insincerity, aka possible deceit, and we'll form some opinions here at the very end. Also, I know that some of you have been requesting some true crime content. Do not you worry, that will be coming up here soon. I forgot about the intro. We gotta roll the intro here. So yeah, we're gonna roll that intro now. What an intro. And now I've given all the backstory that I need to give. I've already done a few videos on Jeffree Star, so I think that's enough of an intro. Let's go ahead and begin into this analysis itself.
All right, everyone. Hi. I know my intro was like, Jeffree, what is going on? But I just want to
I'm going to make some notes here because I've made notes in most videos. One, this is not an apology video. So the fact that he's wearing white in a mostly white background, it's neither here nor there, really. This seems to be more of an aesthetic choice by Jeffree, even down to the lighting with the matching of the colors in his hair to the lighting and the clothes and the walls. It just seems to be more of an aesthetic planned shot rather than him trying to add some form of manipulation. It is still something that we're making note of. It doesn't really work too much now, especially since videos have been coming out calling that out, so we're not worried too much about that. We're framed here pretty simply, nothing too fancy. So let's start paying attention to the body language itself.
Turn on the camera and just talk and vent and let you guys know what's been happening. There's been so many things I haven't been ready to talk about, but I do wanna...
The narrowing of the eyes is recollection, consideration sometimes, processing, mental processing. Usually it's related to recollection, but it can also be those other things as well. Something that I will note about Jeffree's nonverbal communication is that his baseline is subdued. It's no longer flamboyant. He's not using over-the-top gestures. He's not adding in some sort of snarky attitude with it. It's very stripped down. From what I can see so far, from this little tiny blip, we're seeing a more authentic side of Jeffree's behavioral patterns. Not necessarily non-verbally, so on and so forth, but as far as how he's behaving, it seems as though he's stripped away a lot of the flair and the mask that he puts on for his performances online. That's good to see. That would have been good to see in earlier videos where he was addressing things, but it's at least good to see here.
Let everyone know that for the first time in my life, at 35 years old, I am finally leaving California. Some of you probably aren't shocked. A lot of you may be shocked by that news, but I am gonna sell.
I do want to say something here. When he's saying that he's leaving California, he has a pretty substantial blink in there that lasts longer than the rest of the blinks that he's been doing here recently. And he has a little bit of a tone and pitch drop off in his voice, meaning that there's negative emotion centered around that. Likelihood is that's the negative emotion in that he's moving out of a state that he's lived in for a while, so the negative emotions that are kind of accompanying that are showing up. Good to know. That means that we're getting an idea of Jeffree's genuine baseline, how he authentically acts, and we're seeing some of these points that are more universal across everybody show up, so that's helping us understand better what Jeffree's nonverbal character sketch is. Like I said, I've gone over this in the past, but we're addressing it here too.
This house, and I want to dive into, of course, why. This is a very big, shocking life change for me, but 2020, and I think I've said this a million times, but it really took it out of me. And I had so much time during COVID and lockdown and quarantine to really reevaluate my entire life. And
I'm going to talk about some things psychologically that are coming into play here that are not non-verbally related, but since psychology is so interesting and closely related to nonverbals, I might as well talk about some of it. Many people during the time of quarantine were forced to face themselves, where you don't necessarily have to do that. For me and my wife, we had been quarantining for almost a year before that due to her own personal health and some other personal health issues that were just circling around in our family. So we got to do this as well. And I think that many people were able to experience this time of self-reflection that you didn't have the opportunity too much to do, or you were trying to avoid doing so before, but now have no choice. I think that's what's happened somewhat to Jeffree, is that he has spent a large amount of time being forced to be more by himself than before. Maybe not totally. I don't know how Jeffree lives his life. It seems to be pretty lavish. I don't know if he stuck to the CDC guidelines at all during the virus, but if he did and he quarantined, and I do believe that he did, at least somewhat, then this introspection began to happen. Anytime that introspection can begin to happen, it can really help level the playing ground, so to speak, in areas of ego. Instead of surrounding yourself with people that tell you that you're the most amazing thing that's ever touched to the face of the planet ever before, he had to be alone and really face himself, face things that he has to improve at. That's my understanding. That's the understanding to lay the groundwork for this video. Let's see what happens.
I finally had a lot of time to address things that I was not ready to address with myself, was too scared to deal with my personal issues, and so many mental things that I was running from. I'm the first person to admit I'm a very damaged person. I've been through so much trauma.
Some things that I'm going to note verbally with some of the things that he's speaking of that help lean towards authenticity or deceit. So during times of recollecting a storyline, a narrative, and if you're being deceitful, it's more common to have that storyline be completely foolproof, so to speak, or at least how you're presenting it to be fully foolproof, to where there's no limits, there's no fallbacks on your part, on the protagonist part. So what I mean by that is saying, say Jeffree was doing this and he was saying, you know what, I feel like I was doing pretty well. Everything was stacked fully against me and I did the best that I could. And I handled it really, really well despite everything going very poorly. And here's all the evidence, blah, blah, blah. But I did really great myself. If he had maintained that sort of tone, which it could change to that, but so far he's not. If he had maintained that, then that would lend actually more towards deceit, because very rarely are people who are in a narrative, and if we're being honest and unbiased here, very rarely are we ourselves, the protagonist of our own stories, perfect. We very rarely have instances where we don't have something that we can improve on. So what Jeffree has done here is actually lend more towards his authenticity and more towards his credibility by saying, I was scared, I've done dumb things, I've messed up. He's still bringing in some of these things about it being a very hard time for him and things were happening bad towards him and so on and so forth. That's not unheard of. That could still be a little bit of his ego perhaps slipping into this, but he has admitted that he has done some things wrong and that he was scared to be able to take the next steps. This is lending towards credibility, authenticity, more so than it's not. It's good to see. It's not fixing any problems yet. Let's keep watching.
So I've lived 10 lives and I have been through so many things that I never wanted to deal with. So I think I just kind of want to go back and replay 2019. I had some of the biggest wins of my entire career, and I had some of the biggest losses of my entire life. And instead of healing from those traumas...
Ooh, interesting thing. You could hear the tightness in the back of his throat. Happens right down in here, where you start to feel the lump in your throat, a knot in your throat, tightness in your throat when you're trying to muscle back emotion, usually centered around crying. You could hear that creeping in. It is possible to fake that. It is possible to fully pull the wool over somebody's eyes with just adding that tightness to your throat. It doesn't seem as though it's happening across his entire face, which means that he's trying to hide it in some form or another. And that actually could also lend more towards the credibility or authenticity. It doesn't seem like he's trying to use it as a manipulation device. I'm crying, so I need you to feel bad for me, so now everything's going well for me. That doesn't seem to be the side that he's presenting. It seems as though he's trying to keep that pretty subdued. That's good to see, actually. And whether or not it's authentic, not enough tells around that to tell. So we kind of have to take it or leave it considering the context of the video. So let's see where that goes and we'll figure it out.
I covered it up, and I never got to address it. So just being so open and candid, you guys know I lost.
Here's some good things to be able to see as well. And a very small micro movement during those times where he's speaking and it's very difficult to see very clearly. It's the setting of the lower half of his face has relaxed. I don't want to use the word drooped because that's such an ineloquent word, but it's drooping lightly, which can be an indicator of sadness. When the corners of the mouth are being pulled downwards, that is more of an indicator of sadness than not. So the fact that it's coming in on a mini or micro scale onto the bottom half of his face, coupled with the emotion that we heard in his voice earlier, those two tells can kind of work together considering the context of the video to indicate that he's being authentic with his emotions in this part and not just trying to manipulate you. He could still be trying to manipulate you, but it's at least with genuinely felt emotions. Interesting. Let's keep watching.
2 dogs in 19. I lost the love of my life. The one person that I've truly been in love with is not in my life anymore. And those things, however they seem to someone else, were so devastating to me personally. And I'm so grateful for my relationship.
Okay, So he's pointing out some of the things that have caused damage to him in his life. He's lost some puppies, which, for those of you who haven't owned any pets, they can immediately develop a very strong relationship with you and you towards them, and it can be like losing a family member. I grew up on a farm, and I had the unfortunate time of having to see many pets pass away from illness, predator attacks, so on and so forth. And it's very difficult to work through. It's a very difficult thing to navigate, especially if, say, you don't have children, so you pour all of that love and energy into your pets instead. It's extremely difficult to go through, very understandable. I wouldn't throw any shade at Jeffree for that. And now he's talking about the love of his life. He's 35 years old, so no doubt he's feeling like he's growing up and everything's slipping away. So he's speaking about how he feels he's only going to meet the one person, and this isn't unheard of. It's not impossible that that's the one person. In fact, when you become famous, it's more likely that you will find less people that you can trust and know that they're for you rather than they're for your fame, blah, blah, blah. So he feels that, and he has some justification for that. And the tone, you can still hear it. It's the air. His voice isn't reaching his nasal cavity whatsoever. It's all in his throat. So you hear the classic crying tone. I'm about to start crying. So you hear it's in the back of his throat and it's tightening up a little bit, and he's just trying to wrestle through the emotion. So you hear that tonal shift. That's indicating authenticity as well. Long story short, so far Jeffree has been authentic. Kind of surprised. Honestly, kind of genuinely surprised. Let's keep watching.
I'm always going to keep it sacred. I'm never going to talk about anything. I know that people love drama and tea, and I've been such a major player in those emotions, and I haven't in a long time. And I know that the word drama is stuck to my name, maybe forever, but I know who I am standing here today, and I had to face a lot of demons. I had to look in the mirror and really, really, really self-reflect. And being in this big house is so lonely. It really is. And it wasn't at first, but it's really, really lonely here. When my second dog...
This is all genuine from what I can see as well. As he's saying certain emotional states, his head is reflecting that. He's not showing any areas of possible desynchronization with that. He's not slipping out contempt in areas or disgust. He's not having things like the duping delight, those expressional groups as well. He's not using those. He's not showing anything that would lend me to believe he's being inauthentic or deceitful. That's good to see. And this feeling that we're getting from Jeffree in this, it feels like for the first time, at least in my experience, which I don't watch his content often, so maybe there's other videos scattered throughout his content where we get to see this, but it feels like for at least the first time in a video like this, not necessarily an apology video, but a video like this, that we're seeing the real, or as real as we can get, Jeffree. He's not trying to put on a show right now. It seems as though he's sitting down and talking to us like we're just people instead of this weird persona that he puts on. That's good to see. That's what we needed to see in apology videos. That's what we needed to see when he's addressing drama and all of the controversy in the past. He always threw up a mask and tried to behave a certain way through it. And now we're seeing him, maybe this is a new mask, but it doesn't seem to be. The nonverbal side of things doesn't point towards it being fake. It points towards him being authentic. That is good. I'm genuinely shocked. Let's go.
Dog daddy passed away. I still have a really, really hard time talking about it. I miss the dogs a lot. Every day I think about them, and I thought I was okay last year, and I really wasn't. So many people have put me on a pedestal sometimes of what I should be, what I shouldn't be, how I should act, and I finally had to let that all go. I used to amplify things and do things because I thought everyone would like it. And that's one of the hardest things to admit. I was leaving 2019 with so much...
You might think that that's weird for him to say that that's the hardest thing to admit, but he's admitting to being a people pleaser, and that is hard to admit because it doesn't sound like something that's very dignified. It sounds more, it's just not, I don't know how to say it. I myself have to fight against being a people pleaser. I have to fight to speak my voice the way that I need to have it spoken, to speak out on my opinions and not just be afraid of offending people. This channel has helped me overcome that personally myself. But when he's saying that people thought he needed to behave a certain way, and because of that he did the blah, 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 he's admitting to being a people pleaser, and that is a bigger ordeal for him to admit. That's a good sign. It's good that he's admitting faults. Another good tick on the authenticity belt, so to speak.
Pain, and I found this place, and obviously we had no idea COVID would happen, and when I found it, it just felt right. Do I need to be in a house this big? Of course I don't. My ego at the time thought I did, and I wanted to prove to myself, how big can I take this whole entire brand, the vision of Jeffree Star Cosmetics and myself, how big can I grow this? And I manifested every single thing. And I'm so proud of that. But internally, I was suffering immensely. I wasn't telling the people that love me.
So this is just a sneak peek, I guess, into the background of Jeffree Star, what he was thinking, processing, so on and so forth as he was climbing through fame. And I don't know, there's not anything to really even be like, you know what, he could be lying, because he's just kind of stating statistics and what we were actually able to observe and see ourselves. So I can't be like, oh, he's lying here, because there's nothing to say that he's lying. And his body language gave me no anomalies on that part. I didn't see anything that was like, whoa, hold on now. We need to really hone in on here. So it's also good.
Around that surrounded me and who were on my team, what was really happening. And that was one of my biggest regrets, is not asking for help. I know I may be talking all over the place. I just have so many thoughts in my head, but I just wanted to be really candid with you guys and let you know that I'm ready to let go of so much. I'm ready to really focus on my inner happiness and my...
So he's saying that he's ready to let go of so much. And he sits back a little bit of a postural change. I don't think it's a distancing thing. I don't think he's trying to subconsciously put any distance between him and maybe like being a better person or something like that. I don't think that's the case. It is a postural change which reflects that. He's taking charge. He's changing how he's going to be behaving, changing his life scenario, changing these things. So that postural change is a subconscious reflection of his verbal change that he's speaking of. Good to see. We also see a little bit of a no shake and possible eye blocking in there, but the no shake could be related to the unbelievableness of the change for him. It would be hard for him to see himself changing so drastically, so on and so forth. I hope you're seeing that with nonverbal communication, where the biggest differences between true nonverbal communication and the fun, unrealistic side of things is that unrealistic side of things is black and white. He's lying, he's not lying, this tell means this, it never means this, so on and so forth. Whereas in realistic terms, since emotion's so complicated, the mind is so complicated, we see tells and they could mean a myriad of things, and it's only through context and the ability to push more into certain areas that we are able to see what those tells exactly mean. And even still, just because of what humanity is, there's always the possibility of an exception, which means that it's never black and white. It's always shades of gray. Sometimes it could be really dark gray, almost black, but there's always an exception. That's just a little tangent. I know. Let's get back.
Peace, and I didn't think I would ever be ready to sit here on camera and tell anyone this, because I've been ridiculed, I've been degraded, I have been called every name in the book, and I think I just have to really be free again and just live my life, and that's where I'm at. So what does that mean? It means that I'm finally ready to share that 2020 really almost took me out. Like, really.
He's doing some verbal patterns that are pushing me to believe that this is unscripted, at least to a pretty extensive degree. Maybe he had an outline or he had things that he wanted to hit, but as far as the verbatim things he's saying, it seems to be quite unscripted, using words like, so what does that mean? Well, that means it's a buying time phrase. So what does that mean? I'm formulating the next part of the sentence as I say that so that I can dive in, so on and so forth. It's part of improv training, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, this seems to be pretty unscripted, which is another indicator of possible authenticity rather than possible deceit. It's easier to be authentic and unscripted than it is to be deceitful and unscripted. Scripted deceit is pretty straightforward. You write down a lie and then you verbatim repeat the lie. It's harder to do that outside of the scripting. I know that makes sense to you.
It really almost took me out. I don't want to cry today. I don't want to get really dark and dramatic and emotional, but last summer was one of the only times I've ever contemplated, should I be alive? And that was so heavy. What was my purpose? How did I get here? And I came to the conclusion that I really needed help with why I react the way I react.
Two things that he's noting here. First, I want to also make note, I hate the internet in that it can push people to points of considering taking their own life. That's terrible. And so often on the internet, it's just a bunch of people that think they need to share some sort of hate. And so they do. And they don't ever take the time to consider that perhaps maybe the person hears it, sees it, reads it, so on and so forth, and it can affect them personally. And people are so often so brave with their opinions until they have to say things face to face. And usually it's based out of some form of insecurity from the person themselves of being like, I hope you kill yourself. That side of things, that's based off of insecurity from the person speaking. And that's unfortunate because even with somebody who has as huge of an ego as Jeffree Star, it can still get to them, very frankly. And that's too bad. I just wanted to make a note of that. I really dislike people who ever say anything like that on the internet to another person. I think they're idiots. I think it's wrong. And I think they really need to do some self-evaluation themselves. Don't ever tell anybody they should kill themselves. Ever. I don't care who they are. Just don't. Not your place. Not my place. Nobody's place. Anyway, along with that, he just admitted that he needed help. This is another stride to showing that Jeffree is at least aware of his own ego and aware of some of his problems, so he's admitting the need to have help. This is another verbal pattern that is backing up the nonverbal stuff that we've seen so far. This is going better for Jeffree. Out of all the videos that I've seen of Jeffree, this is the one that I have felt the most authentic nonverbal communication from, and the psychological reasoning behind it makes the most sense. Good. Long story short, it's good.
Why I do the things I do. I somehow got caught up in joining this YouTube space and the beauty world. Now the beauty community is insane. I don't even think there is one anymore currently, today. But
yeah, that's actually kind of true. The beauty community is usually filled with some form of drama, or at least you all know, most of you know, there's the drama part of the beauty community. Some people are out there because makeup and things like that can be real, very beautiful art, and they're there for that. And then there's the drama side of it. So he definitely got lodged into that, and I don't know, I think that it has kind of dissolved a little bit, so that's kind of good to see. Nothing important to this analysis, just making a comment. This is also a reacts, I guess.
I was part of the problem, but I also got swept up into so many other people's bullshit. And I'll regret that forever. I really want to sit here and let you guys know, like, I'm...
Interesting. He has an odd tell in that area where he shrugs, and he shakes his head, and he closes his eyes, and this is an interesting cluster of tells. That shrug could be an indicator of insecurity or insincerity. Perhaps there's not as much weight behind those words. The shaking of the head is related to negative emotions. It could also be directly related to a counteracting of that. I'll regret that, and he shakes his head. Or it could be the negative emotions of regret. He closes his eyes, which could be a sign of eye blocking, a distancing, a desire to distance oneself from something. Close your eyes, it feels more separate. Or it could also be, once again, in relation to maybe psychological processing or the negative emotions centered around that. Long story short, that is a red flag in that specific area. Maybe he doesn't feel the words that he's saying as strongly as he's trying to present, or it could actually all be synchronized. All that I've made note of is that it happened there, so we'll see if there's anything else that supports or adds to that later on.
Sorry as well. This isn't an apology video. This isn't me trying to say sorry about anything in the past, which I'll always forever be. This is just me saying, I'm sorry to anyone I've ever hurt. I'm sorry that I let people hurt me. And I'm sorry I trusted so hard with friends in my past. But a lot of the times I amplify things when I should have just shut up. Okay,
interesting. So he says, I'm sorry for everybody that I've ever hurt. and he doesn't show anything that would indicate deceptiveness during that part. He locks eyes a little bit more steadily with the camera during that, and that could be him really trying to drive that home in that one small line. And then he goes off and saying that I'm sorry that people have hurt me, I'm sorry that I trust so hard, so on and so forth. And those kind of sound like he might be playing the victim a little bit on that front. But if we're also quite honest with things, chances are he probably has been hurt, and I don't know about the trusting side of things. Not too much to go off of on that front. But he's probably received a fair bit of flack for his past. So that's probably true. But then he also admits that what he should have done in many of these areas is just pipe down, let it be, let other people's drama be their own drama, so on and so forth. And that's true. That's true. That lends towards his authenticity as well.
Made things 10 times worse so many times, and I don't even know who that person was. You guys, bitch, we all know. Let's be really transparent. I lost millions of followers. I had people turn on me.
Right when he was about to say, I lost millions of followers right in that area, he has a little tiny flash of disgust in there, which is in relation to losing millions of followers. Duh. Anybody would probably be disgusted if they lost millions of followers and those are part of your income and so on and so forth. So that disgust seeping out there is an indicator that we have an idea as to who Jeffree Star is and how he behaves non-verbally, helping us understand his authenticity a fair bit better. That's good to see. Let's go.
And all because of what someone else made up. Now, we know there's a million things leading up to that. I don't want to dive into that ever again, and we're not going to talk about it, but fully, I just think that the past is the past. We all know what happened. It is what it is. It's over. It's dead and gone. But
he has some areas where he's narrowing his eyes, mixed with that disgust of losing millions of followers before. And the feeling that I'm getting from this is that he has some scorn, perhaps anger, in relation to this instance that he's speaking of here. And that, I guess that makes sense. I don't know if it lends towards his authenticity or deceit, but it is something that we saw at least. So cool, right?
I just wanted to share what I was going through, and it was god awful. I'm never gonna play the victim. I know my parts that I've played in certain things, and I'll always be embarrassed by that. And I'm here now.
Maybe he might always be embarrassed by that. There weren't enough tells for me to say, oh, he's being deceitful, but I did make note of the fact that he's shaking his head no. But it's a pretty overt head shake. Everybody saw it. Everybody noticed it. So it's probably something that was conscious. If it's conscious, it's usually related to the negative emotions thereof rather than a nonverbal desynchronization point. So in that part, I would probably actually relate that towards the negative emotions rather than possible desynchronization, aka deceit.
And I think I'm really ready to say it. It's been hard for me to spit this out today, but last year I sought help and I started therapy. And I haven't gone to therapy since high school, you guys.
Another postural change in there is he started talking about seeking help and therapy. He straightened up a little bit and he had a small smile seep in there as well. Those are more indicators of genuine positive emotions in regards to that. Confidence in the straightening up and the small smile indicating happiness in there as well. He's happy that he's seeking out therapy, at least from his nonverbal tells.
And it came to a point where I really wanted to understand my brain, understand my emotions, and get things into control. Why am I lashing out? Why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And I really needed self-discovery, and I needed to heal. And once I started going through and processing everything and dealing with it all, it was like cracking open a safe and everything was just pouring out, all the emotions. I'm still healing. I don't know if I'll ever be healed from my past, you know, and I'm just so thankful that I'm in the...
I don't know why he decided to add the from my past side of that. Obviously that was added in a conscious decision for him to move in, because from my past, that in there is interesting. Perhaps he's talking about the car wreck that he went through, and maybe he's trying to clarify, like, obviously I'll be done healing physically, something along those lines. I just saw that and noted that, and that is odd, especially in his verbal patterning. He hasn't had that pop up often. So that from my past, there's something that was happening around that. Not sure what it is. There's not enough context to say.
The place I am now. Can you imagine? I'm actually in a really, really great place mentally. I feel like I'm thriving, closer to my family than ever before. I'm really focused on creating again, and I'm happy. I really am. Oh my God, it just sounds so crazy. I'm happy again, and I don't want to cry. We're not crying today. Oh, but I'm happy, and I want to cry because I'm happy. I'm not sure how to say this yet, or how to articulate it, but Jeffree Star, the person, also became, to me, I always say like a character, because I'll amplify things, and I literally had nothing.
Okay, so you can see in this part that his hand gestures are becoming more flamboyant, and as he's speaking about his persona, the Jeffree Star persona, he starts to slide into that realm of gestures a little bit more so. And this brings up an interesting point that people don't have one singular baseline. They have a baseline for every single instance that they're in. It's just what they're most comfortable at in that instance. So when he's talking about his Jeffree Star persona and he starts gesturing more broadly, that makes sense. That means that his words are actually in sync with his nonverbal patterns, with his psychological patternings, aka he's not being deceitful. And we've seen that pretty consistently throughout this entire video. That is interesting to make note of, and also I wanted to let you know that there are more than one baseline per person. Fun, right?
7 years ago, and I got way too much, maybe some could say, and I'll go back to there's no handbook of life. There was no guidance for me of, oh my God, you went from this to this, how do you handle it all? I can't believe it, I've gotten this far in life, as far as my career and the goals I've wanted to achieve, and there's more to me. I don't want to talk in the third person like an idiot, but there's more to me, there is more to Jeffree Star.
I was happy about that. That is good to hear, where he's self-aware again. Many people who are very egotistical will refer to themselves in the third person regularly instead of just being like illustrative for whatever they're talking about, so on and so forth. It's just the way they talk about themselves, and it's an extremely egotistical thing to do. And so the fact that he added that in there, I don't want to talk about myself like in the third person like an idiot. I just thought that that was a funny self-aware thing that he added in there, which actually lends us to believe that he has done at least a small amount of introspection. That's good.
Than just the facade that I think so many people have seen. And I amplified that because I thought that that's what people wanted. And that's not me anymore. When it comes to my image, I really played into it too hard, and I'm just so proud to say I'm happy. I know it sounds so silly and weird maybe to some people, but I'm so ready for the
uncomfortable in that area. He starts with a little bit of manipulators on his hands down here, small ones. You can just barely see his fingers moving. That is a self-soothing gesture. Whenever you see somebody wringing their hands or massaging their hands, it's a sign of agitation. It is a self-soothing gesture, common in nerves, blah, blah, blah. So we see that, and then he talks about how he feels silly, talking about how he's happy that he's happy, and then he does another self-soothing gesture on his leg where he rubs his hand down his leg, and that's another one that presents itself commonly in times of nervousness. So that is synchronized as well. He's self-conscious about being happy about being happy. I hope that makes sense. Let's keep watching.
The next chapter. So I'm on the me train again. I'm focusing on myself. And my peace and happiness and my mental health is really, really good. And I think that mental health, a lot of times people don't take it serious, they laugh. That word, those two words combined it's become very generic. But I think mental health is so important. And people forget sometimes that we're all just people. I'm not even sure how to end this video. I just wanted to sit down, vent, and let you guys know what's been happening with me personally. Thank you guys for listening with an open heart and open mind. And I'm ready for the rest of the year. I appreciate you. I love you guys, each and every single one of you so much. And I'll see you very soon. Bye, guys.
Okay, verbally at the end there, that's the end of the video. Verbally at the end, he says, I appreciate you for watching this with an open heart and an open mind, assuming that that's how people are going to watch it. It can be one of those like social engineering types of lines to where you assume that people are going to do that. You say that they're going to watch it open heart, open mind, so on and so forth, so they're more likely to. Possible manipulation? Not sure. Considering the rest of the context of the video, likely not, but maybe. Anyway, so here's the thing. Non-verbally speaking, we saw that he was quite synchronized throughout. There weren't any overt areas of lying except for that one instance that didn't pop up anywhere else. So even in that instance, it's likely not a lie. Possibly, but likely not. Non-verbally speaking, and this is just the science side of things, he was synchronized. Everything that he was saying, he at least felt. He believed it to be true. Opinion side of things. Jeffree has done a lot of really terrible things. He's said some terrible things, and he's done a lot of damage in his career. This one video isn't enough to make up for all of that. Hopefully, as he continues forward from this point on, this will be the perfect stepping stone for the change that we want to see. So with this video, while he was synchronized, while he was authentic, and while he is admitting some of his own wrongs, showing that he's overcoming his own ego, being self-reflective and introspective, and this is all good, positive stuff, while that's true, that doesn't undo what he's already done. Frankly, actually, nothing will undo what he's done. There's not a way that he can change the past. He can, however, take steps to better the future and maybe repair some relationships that he's destroyed, and maybe do some good with what he has available to him. There's that possibility. In my mind, I'm pretty neutral on Jeffree Star. I don't watch his stuff. I don't hate him. I don't love him. He's just another person that's out there. So I'll leave all of that up to you guys. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. If there's things that I've missed, especially contextually with everything, since I'm working off of a smaller slice of Jeffree's life. Perhaps some of you are fans and you know a larger pool of information around that can help from what I've seen here. Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. Is there anything that you would like to see him do that would actually maybe make a little bit more of a difference besides the one video? The one video I think went quite well, but maybe there's something else that he could do that could show that he's becoming a better person. And I think that becoming line is important. I think that for all of us, we all have areas that we're terrible people in, and we need to be able to be better at them. So it's a process. It's always a process. You're never done, if you know what I mean. Like, yeah, you know what I mean. Life is life, right? So that's that side of things. That's my opinion. Thank you again to CuriosityStream. Please do go and check out the link in the description below. Use the code to be able to get your discount, and I highly suggest it. There's some very cool educational stuff on there, so if you would like to be able to have something that teases your brain and is still nice to watch, then go and check that out. So thank you again to them for sponsoring this video. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell notification button thingy if you would like to see the videos earlier, be one of the people on the channel to comment first, I guess. Or the more beneficial thing is that sometimes I'll just do an impromptu live stream, and the only thing that lets people know is that there's gonna be a notification that comes on. So turn those on and then they disappear. The live streams disappear to Patreon after that. So there's that pitch for that, but without further ado, that's all that I've got for the day. My name is Logan, and you have been oh so awesome, as you always are. And I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.